We're live. Hello.
Jesus Christ, why are you yelling so loud?
Because I'm excited because we're live.
We have 1 week we don't get to do a show, and she goes.
I'm so excited. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. You're watching us live on Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget to go find us on the Instagram and Twitter. Go like, share, thumbs up. Tell everybody that you know that we have a show. There you go. That all right. Hey, girl. Hey.
It's like you planned it.
I did not plan it.
I know. I said it was like you did.
I know. Things come out. And it's just so
You're coming
funny.
out?
Yes.
This is a big show.
I have to go share. I got a notification.
I've already shared it with almost everything.
Well, you fancy then.
It's because I prepare.
Share.
This is the downside to doing a live show is you don't.
Well, if we had like somebody else producing it besides me here, they could be doing all this stuff for us.
I like you say that like you're doing this big amount of work. See, only thing for this website you do is produce this show 1 day a week, barely. All right.
You're too much, kid.
So we didn't have a show last week. We had some stuff going on. Somebody wasn't feeling well.
Ooh, my tumblies had rumblies.
We missed a show a few weeks ago because I had a friend in town that I hadn't seen in 20 plus years. She got sick last week. So I don't know if you had some food poisoning or
I think so.
Something. I don't know.
My mom says guac. I think potato salad.
She was. Let's just say it wasn't the most sexy thing to witness.
Not at all.
But we decided not to do it. And the plan was we were going to try to do a show Monday or Tuesday, and then you weren't feeling still very good on Monday, and then things just got busy. We just said, you know what, forget it. We'll just do a show today. Woo! But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of blend both shows. We may not talk about some of the things we were going to talk about last week. We'll get the big ones in, but
we'll do it.
Yeah. So we'll do what things.
This dog, the dogs are now switching sides. So we've reset because
someone is never happy. So that means this will stand for about a month or two, and then she'll want to change it again because nothing's ever good enough.
But see, now we have a dog poking their head through, which is what I thought might happen. Sweet dog.
We've got chairs set up, so we're actually set up away from the couch we're normally sitting on, and now the couch is for the dogs because our entire lives revolves around the dogs being happy.
Correct. There are babies now. So that is
all. On our agenda today, we have a wide variety, but we want to make sure we talk about a few of the ones that were supposed to be for last week. And once again, this is the one of those rare times that everything with the exception of one thing that I still have on the list, we both have seen.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So why don't we kind of zoom through them? One of them is not even a movie, and it's an event thing. We need to go ahead and talk about it because I don't remember
how long is it running,
event, so I can tell you when it ends. November 28th.
So so there's time if you are in Dallas right now. Yeah, it's in Dallas right now.
Yeah. So really quick, there's an event called Clint Eastwood: A Cinematic Legacy. It's an exhibit at the AT&T Discovery Center or Discovery District.
Correct.
If you go to our website at
hollywoodmatrimony.com,
scroll down to the live events. There's a big picture of Clint Eastwood. You click on the event, it tells you the dates, but you can read through it. Basically, it has it's celebrating 50 years of Clint Eastwood, which at first I was like, Clint Eastwood's been around way longer than 50 years. Mm-hmm. But what this is celebrating is 50 years of Clint Eastwood's relationship with filmmaking with Warner Brothers, just Warner Brothers. But it has a whole bunch of the costumes, like his Unforgiven costume, his Gran Torino outfit. It's got the $1 Million Baby boxing outfit. It's got Sully's.
Yes,
Tom Hanks. These are all the real screen used.
What? I still Captain Sudi.
Yeah, the real screen used outfits. The two coolest things for me, it's got the actual Gran Torino car there from Gran Torino.
The full car.
And the most iconic thing of the whole section is it's got the 44 Magnum and badge from Dirty Harry.
Nice.
So it's free event. That makes it even better. You just go down there. It's just open to the public. You go into this building. I think we talked about the Justice League exhibit sometime back. It's kind of at the same place.
It's in the same place.
I don't know if this other thing was a one-day exhibit, which I'm bummed out I wasn't able to go. But it was at the same place. So I don't know if it's extended or if it was just during DC Fandom yesterday. Mm-hmm. In the same building, they had
on the outside.
No, it was inside the lobby, in that main lobby area. They were having a digital installation of Jim Lee's artwork from DC.
So it'd be on the inside.
So it's on the pillars and the wall.
So that building, the way it's set up is when you walk in, there are cameras everywhere projecting onto the pillars, onto the wall, all 4 walls, and kind of even ceiling wise. So like there's always images scrolling through. So during the Clint Eastwood thing, it was all stuff from his movies and interviews. So I'm assuming yesterday it was just all this DC art.
Yeah, the whole wall was and then the pillars were showcasing black and white pencil work, ink work, and colored work of Jim Lee's, one of my favorite artists of all time, his work with DC. So it was a cool little. I got to see some videos from it, but I didn't get to go because
that's cool.
Never mind.
So many things.
Very upset I couldn't go. I missed 2 different things yesterday. That and there was a martial arts thing that I was going to pop in, and I didn't get a chance to go to. That was that Gathering of the Masters thing yesterday, where I wasn't able to go to that either. So
you have too much happening.
Anyway,
you're only one man.
I know, but the exhibit goes until November 28th.
You need to check this out. It's really fun.
What's cool about these little exhibits is they're not widely publicized. So you kind of just go in. There's no check-in. There's no. You find the building. If you go to our website at
HollywoodMatrimony.com,
click on the link. It has the address to the building if you're in the Dallas area, or if you want to drive in for it. You literally can walk through the whole thing in 20 minutes.
Yeah. But then while you're there, there's a restaurant attached that we went to.
The
Hawthorne, really nice. Or if you go outside, there's a bunch of like eatery type things all around outside.
Yeah, so we went to this press event, right? And
so nice.
Our whole plan was we'd been to an exhibit like this before, like with the Justice League. So we thought
we'll eat some more d'oeuvres, we'll walk through, we'll get out.
Because they said there'll be some snacks. So we assumed we're going to grab some snacks, watch us go through things last 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll leave.
We'll go to dinner.
I was going to go to class and
pick up food, whatever.
We were there for 2
hours
or so because we get there, they check in, they gave us drink tickets. They had all these Clint Eastwood themed drinks that were like
so fun.
The Dirty Harry, Make My Day specials, and all these things.
They're so fun.
But then the hors d'oeuvres they were carrying around were not like charcuterie tray. They were like sushi.
They were like small bites, like mini burgers. They had sushi rolls. They had chicken teriyaki stick. Those were my favorite pizzas. I mean,
deviled eggs with caviar.
I mean, it was like non-ending
like shrimp
foods.
Nachos, or no, was it shrimp or salmon?
Salmon nacho.
No, tuna nachos. And some of it doesn't sound good. It was really good.
It was really good.
So we almost forgot about the exhibit. We were just eating.
I know. We were eating for a while. And I was like, well, I don't need to pick up dinner now.
Yeah, that ended up being our dinner.
Yeah, and they were really good. I like those burgers because it had like a spicy aioli type thing on it.
Yeah, I was all about that
something.
Tuna nacho, the teriyaki, and
the teriyaki chicken thing was good.
The deviled egg wasn't bad. I'm not big on the deviled egg.
Caviar was too salty for me, but
see, and I think that's what made the deviled egg made it actually taste better.
Because you're not a deviled egg person.
I'm not. And it gave a little hint of actual flavor instead of just mustard or mayonnaise and egg.
And then they were going by and they're like, oh, don't forget to go over here for pizza. And I'm like, there's pizza. They're like,
it was funny because we kind of found us this spot. And this is like this classy, fancy bitch restaurant. Nice. And we're sitting over there on the side and find a place. And it's like 1 or 2 waiters kind of noticed us. So every time they would come out of the kitchen, they would stop us. Y'all want some of this?
They're nice. Like, it was so nice. So now I just want to go eat there for real and see what it's like.
So, and it was this madhouse craziness because we saw a situation that you hear about in the news about not enough people showing up for working or people not working. They had valet and they had the whole thing set up so it was covering the parking for us. It was like a full event, really nice thing set up.
Nice.
But it was so many people trying to get in and only like 1 or 2 people doing the valet. So they finally said, look, here's the garage. Go park over there. They'll still validate your parking and all this stuff. You don't have to worry about it. There's this one poor kid, Austin.
Hey, Austin.
He was running nonstop.
Poor Austin.
Working his butt off, and he had a smile on his face the whole time. Even when we went to leave, we were struggling trying to get out because nobody really knew how to validate since we parked ourselves. So they had told us to go to the thing, call the front desk, tell them. So we called as we're walking out. They're like, because you walk up and there's a thing before you ever get to your car. So we called them first. They're like, no, you need to get to the gate first. I'm like, all right. So we get to our car. So we go to leave, and we're trying to get it to work, and things aren't working right. And Austin happens to be behind us in a car. He's pulling around. He's like, there's no gate there, right? We're just stopping, but there's a booth, and we didn't want to get like scanned or some crap. And booth. He's like, just go through. Somebody ran through the gate the other day, so nobody would have had to pay for parking anyway. So it was crazy. But I even went online, found the parking company.
Yes, thank you.
And I sent a note to the HR head people. I got an email back from the CEO praising Austin and telling him he should get a good thing. And I don't know if they'll ever tell him, but they said, thank you for letting us know.
He was a nice kid. We gave him a tip. He didn't even park our car, and we still gave him a tip.
Yeah, I gave him a tip. And he tried to turn it down.
No, take the
He's
money,
a good kid, man.
Good people,
Anyway.
wherever you are, Austin.
So that was the Clint Eastwood experience. Go check it out. It's going
really
until
cool.
November 28th.
Go.
All right, so where do you want to start? You want to go with stuff from last week?
Yeah,
first?
let's go through last week's thing. Well, other kind of mixed, but what do you want to talk about?
It is October, so we have a majority of the movies are actually horror thriller themes, except for one.
You want to go here first and going to go this way?
That's fine, unless you want me to do mine first that you haven't
this
seen.
one? Yeah, tell me about this. This looks interesting.
Okay, so
I like that it's in a themed of the year that it's very dear to my heart.
What?
Because this is the year I graduated high school. I'm so old.
You may or may not know this. I'm assuming you would know, but you also haven't seen them, so you may not know. We're talking about is the latest entry into the VHS franchise. This is the fourth film in the franchise. Technically fifth because there is a spin-off film, but they're found footage films. And what they are is they're a compilation of horror stories from different directors. None of them really have anything to do with the other, but what they do is they each have a core story on how they found these VHS tapes. And then each time they start watching the tapes, they're going crazy stories. And there's like, some of them have Asian flicks in them. Some of them are English. Some of them are zombies. It might be monsters. It may be serial killers. It may just be weird diseases. It's no rhyme or reason to it. I didn't even know, because the last one came out in, hold on, let me tell you real quick. Because there's three previous ones, like I said. There was VHS. It came out in 2012. That's how long this has been going on. VHS 2 came out in 2013. VHS Viral came out in 2014. Then they did a spin-off one called Siren that spun off. It was like one of the little shorts, and they ended up making a feature out of it. It was made in like 2016, and that's been the end of it.
Oh, wow.
We haven't heard
it's
anything
been a long
else from
time.
the VHS franchise until now. And this one was actually an exclusive to Shudder. And I saw one of my buddies was watching it, and I went, what? I don't have Shudder. So I immediately went to the PR firm that I know normally sends me Shudder stuff. And I'm like, do you know if this thing is going to be released to DVD anytime soon? They're like, we'll send you a link. And so Shudder actually sent me the link.
Oh, thank you,
Shudder.
Shudder.
Message, so I check it. So anyway, I sat down. It is awesome.
Is it?
This whole one is about like a SWAT team invades some drug lab or something, and they find there's all these old TVs, and they find all these, it's like a cult compound type thing. They find all these VHS. And so as they go around, they start playing. Yeah. And then by the end of it, it all kind of comes together and kind of comes. So there's like little vignettes in between each one that's a bigger story.
I see. So
right?
It does connect. It connects.
It connects on how we see the stories, but the stories themselves aren't necessarily
individual.
Yeah, they don't necessarily connect to the bigger story.
Gotcha.
Just these
that they're watching them.
So it was awesome. It's another case of just a slew of insanity and gore. There's one that's like
this already sounds like my kind of movie.
Yeah, it's and they've come a long way with what we used to refer to as the shaky cam.
Yes.
Because it used to give people motion sickness. They've come a long way because they've gotten smart about how they use the cameras. Where, like, there's a movie called The End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Right.
That it's all about the body cams on the police.
Yeah.
The police's. Not everything's somebody carrying a camera now. Now it's like mounted, so
that was very Blair Witch that made me sick.
Now it doesn't shake as much on some of the stuff.
Okay.
So it's not as dizzy-inducing sometimes. They've also gotten more clever about how it works into the story, because there's some of them that made them like, why is this person still holding this camera when somebody's being murdered? Why would you not be running? Why would you just like, But in this case, like, there's one whole story about like this rat creature thing in the sewer, and it's a news reporter. So the cameraman is trying to do a news report. Is following.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's another one that's like body modification horror, but I don't know if it's Korean or if it's Japanese or what it's from. But it's like these people's bodies they've been almost Frankenstein with the robot parts and stuff, and so the camera's on the person's head, so it's their eye you're seeing out of. And so it's great. It's got it's man in suit creatures. It's got gore. It's got violence. It's got some silliness. It's just awesome. So if you like the VHS franchise, this is another one that's great. It also has stories from Simon Barrett and, say his name right, Timo Tjahjanto. I don't know if that's how you say his name. Who have done films in the previous series. Simon Barrett is one of my favorites. He's a guy that also worked on The Guest. He did the new remake of Blair Witch.
Nice,
He's done
which
a lot
I
of
need to
stuff.
watch.
Yeah, I love that guy and his work.
I'm gonna give all the Blair Witches another try.
Just give the one and then the remake. We're not watching Blair Witch 2.
Okay.
That movie's trash.
All right.
We can watch it if you want to watch it. It's not a found footage movie.
Okay.
And it stars Michael from Burn Notice.
Oh.
It's just a trash movie.
All right. Well, then I'll watch
the
original.
Right now, VHS 94, because the whole movie takes place in 1994, and the stories take place in 1984, is available now on Shudder. I'm assuming in a few months of Blu-ray DVD if you don't have it. And it does a lot of the stuff. What's cool about this franchise too, before I move on, is it also makes you believe you're really watching VHS because it'll like freeze.
Oh, it'll jump. Does it have lines?
Yeah, it'll jump sometimes. It'll kind of focus like somebody's having to do the tuner.
That's
it's all kinds of cool stuff. It's very clever the way they do it.
Which, if you're older, you may not even understand what we're telling you. Or younger, sorry.
And I love the poster where she's got like the VHS. But if you don't look, if you just glance at it, it looks like there's tarantulas coming out of her mouth.
No, I understand.
No, I know, but reality, you know, it's a VHS thing. But if you don't know about the VHS tape, you may think it's something else. So it's a very cool poster. Anyway, it's available now.
All right,
check it out.
There you go. Now let's go here because this one is a few weeks coming.
Okay, which one? That one's comes out this week. It's new. But we can talk about it. It's fine. It's not.
This is new. It came out then.
No, that's when it came out in the theater.
I know. That's when I've been trying to watch. I've been waiting to watch
it's coming out this coming week on Blu-ray. So
then
that's fine. Let's talk about it.
It's timely then.
It's not
for me. It's
first thing I'm looking at new is what's coming out.
Well, for me, it's old because I wanted to watch this months ago and I never did.
Let's go.
All right. So this movie is M. Night Shyamalan's Old.
Shyamalama Ding Dong.
This is his latest installment. Basically, it is a story of these people who go to a beach and mysterious things start to happen. And as you see in the trailer and even in the poster, people are aging at a rapid rate. Mm-hmm. That is all we will tell you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, people are trying to get out, figure out what's going on. How do we get out of here? Craziness ensues. There you go. What did you think?
Well,
give me some thoughts.
First, I want to say there was an interesting thing with M. Night Shyamalan's filmography. There's a lot of people, they loved him when he started. Once he did The Happening in the Village and Lady in the Water, for a lot of people, he started going downhill.
I think we lost people at The Happening.
I love Lady in the Water, despite everybody else hating it. The Happening is not a great movie.
I enjoyed it for the message, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think it deserves the hate it gets. Last Airbender, it's fine, but I'm not a fan of the cartoon, so it didn't really affect me. He's had ups and downs, like every other filmmaker. You know, and they kind of burst back on the scene with The Visit, which I loved. Did you watch that one?
I don't know.
Were they going to see the grandparents? It's kind of found footage.
Maybe.
The two kids are going to stay with the grandparents.
Let me go look at pictures because that's the only way I'll be able to tell you. But continue.
That one kind of came out low key because it wasn't really promoted like
as M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, like most movies of his are.
Yes, I did like The Visit. Very good.
It's a found footage kind of movie, I believe.
I don't know. It was good. That's where the grandparents are naked in the front yard. Yes.
But then it kind of then he did Split, which then became the unexpected sequel to Unbreakable. Then we got Glass, and the trilogy happened that we never thought was going to happen. So anyway, he's kind of had some ups and downs, and he's kind of had a strong force back. Whether you liked him or not, box office wise been strong. So this next movie, Old, the trailers were super intriguing.
Yeah.
I was all in. I don't hate near as many of his movies as some other people do. This might be my least favorite movie he's done.
Really?
I didn't hate the movie.
More than The Happening, because I know you weren't a huge fan of The Happening.
Yeah. It's okay. The Happening is probably the least favorite. This is probably right above The Happening. But here's the thing: is I didn't hate this movie.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was built up to be something. It was something else, and the payoff wasn't really that great. It was interesting, but it wasn't. It wasn't an M. Night Shyamalan payoff. He's known for the twists that when it happens, you're like, oh crap. Even if it's not a good movie, you still have a good twist. This has probably been the weakest twist because even The Happening didn't really have a great twist to it. But this one, the twist to it never really was a twist. More of a, oh, by the way, here's what's going on.
Correct. I think if you were not a fan of The Happening, you may not enjoy this either because in a way, in an underlying vein of the story, it's it's more of a message movie. Kind of that, like The
I didn't
Happening
get that
was.
either.
I thought it was.
The Happening, I very much see that.
No, I thought it was.
This one I didn't see
We'll have to talk offline because I have a whole theory of my messaging of what it is.
Well, no, I know the message of what you're saying, and I see the message. My problem with the movie was there was a lot of this chaos build up and things they're doing,
and it just easily gets explained away.
Yeah, it's like they seem to
that I will
they very
agree.
quickly explain why the island is like it is.
Right.
We don't wait that long to find that out. Right.
Yeah.
Which one?
Devil.
Well, he just produced that.
I know, but that was a good movie.
I love Devil. That was when they were going to make the M. Night Shyamalan Chronicles, and they only made 2 of them, and then it went away.
I know. Anyway, sorry.
But this one, they resolve the reasoning fairly quickly, so then it kind of, to me, loses its impact.
Well, it then becomes a people movie.
Yeah, and the problem with it, too, is I think they had too many people on the island, or the beach, because you never get invested in anybody. Like, at least I didn't. It was like, as soon as they show somebody, you start getting a little engaged in their story and where they may be going and what's going to happen to them. And then we jump over here. Then we jump back over here.
It ends up focusing more on just kind of one family, but...
Well, and that would have been fine. I think it would have been way more interesting if it was that one family and maybe the 2 other people that were already there and not that whole other family. But I understand why one of those people had to be there.
Well, maybe even 2.
Yeah, but it just felt like... It seemed repetitive. It felt like, to me, even though things kept happening, nothing was happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And once you know what's going to happen to these people, and once you know it's explained away so quickly, then the intrigue is gone for me. You get it. There's a different twist, if you want to call it that, of why this is happening.
Yeah.
But that wasn't always like, what? It was more like, oh, yeah.
I believe that would happen.
Yeah, that was like figures.
That would
And maybe that's the problem is it's so grounded in a real world.
That's what I'm telling you. It's a message
aspect, if you will, without it being real world, but being grounded in a real world aspect, it loses the mentality of what they push to you.
Yes, it's promoted supernatural.
It's not a movie you think it is, which normally I would love. I love when the things go a total left field. In this case, I didn't hate the movie. It was intriguing. It just wasn't what I hoped it was going to be.
It's not. I agree. It's not as great as I was expecting. Like, I was all in. I've been waiting for months to watch this, because it opened in July, and I've been waiting.
Right.
And we were going to go, and then something happened, and then let's go, and then something. So I've been
and
waiting.
We both got excited when it showed up in the mail.
We're like, woohoo! And then it's like, yeah, it's okay.
That was what I felt when I finished watching the movie. I was just like,
it's okay.
And pretty much every M. Night movie, with the exception of Last Airbender, even when you finish it, you're just kind of like, what? Even if you didn't like it, you're either confused or perplexed, or you're like, don't believe what the twist was, and this one, I didn't really care about the twist. I didn't really care. It just was a decent movie.
Yeah.
Like, this would be the kind of movie that I would have expected to be like his first movie to put him on the map. Because it'd been like, ooh. And maybe that's the problem when you have things like The Sixth Sense, which I think is highly overrated, but it had a big twist at the time. Signs. What is the other big one? The Village, which I like. The Village.
I liked it. I know some people
Unbreakable is outstanding.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think I just wanted more.
I agree.
But like I said, it's not a horrible movie, and
it's got some good people in it.
I've heard some people talk about it, and they love it.
Oh, good.
And I've heard other people say that it was the stupidest movie they've ever seen. So I think this is going to very much be a you like it or don't.
Yeah, I agree. I really think it's more in the vein of The Happening than some of the others. So
you might have just turned off everyone that might want to watch it if I'm saying The Happening, because The Happening, I think it's its most hated movie outside of Airbender.
I feel like it's more to that than the others, though. Yeah. Just to be fair. I mean, we're a movie review show. I got to give you the truth. It's fine. Yeah. I would probably watch it one more time.
I don't think I would watch it, because that's the other problem with a lot of his movies.
You can't watch
once you know the twist, they're not as entertaining.
Well, I don't know. Sixth Sense, I can still watch and be like, oh.
Yeah. See, and I remember, here's what's funny about Sixth Sense. That's another case of, like I was telling you with Paranormal Activity the other day. I remember everybody talking about Sixth Sense, and everybody
hyped that up.
Oh my God, this is so good, and this is so blah, 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 blah. And I remember watching it, and when he said it, and I was just like, I said, oh, that's cool. But I was like, I came out of that movie like, really?
That was it?
It was a good movie.
That's a good movie.
But that's what people are screaming about? So, and I love M. Night's work.
I do too. I think he's very creative. And you know what? Good for you, dude.
That's right. I give him credit for making the movie he wants to make.
Exactly.
And
he always makes.
It is a clever story.
Yeah, it's very clever, and I'm down with the messaging. We'll talk later, but
visually, it looks great.
I liked all the people in this too. I like me some Rufus Sewell. So
we don't see enough of him. I agree with that.
I love him. That is all.
Visually,
and this little kid, I like him too. Alex Wolff.
Yes. Visually, it looks great.
Yeah. I mean, it's
some of the cool angles and directions they did. A lot of the characters you just hate right out the gate, and I know that's by design. But I was just like, if you give me too many I don't like, I'm out. Unless I know they're going to do something horrific to them. Yeah. And they never really did much horrific to them.
Yeah. You know what?
But
you go, kid.
It is what it is. Old will be available this Tuesday on Blu-ray and DVD from Universal.
Okay.
What else we got, sister?
All right, we're going this way.
All right.
We did that. We're here.
All right.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the next one is a strange movie, and this one's going to be a hard one to talk about because we don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
This is one that I had been putting off. They kept sending me promo stuff about it and posters and
really.
Yeah,
you didn't tell me all this.
Well, I got a ton of stuff about this over the months and months before release. And every time I planned to write a story, I'd get sidetracked with other stories or overwhelmed with work stuff and not have time. So I'd move on. And then they send me something else. Here's a clip. Here's a poster. Here's a trailer. And I'm like, come on, man. And then I'm looking at the picture. I hadn't read the synopsis. I saw the picture. I'm like, okay, I like Noomi Rapace, but I don't care about this movie. This just looks, I don't care. Then I started reading about it and realizing it was kind of a horror thriller kind of thing. And then I started hearing people talk about it. And I'm like, okay, now I need to see this movie.
Well, you just told me, hey, we're going to watch this movie with Noomi Rapace. I'm like, I'm in.
I knew she's in. If you don't know who she is, most of you would probably know her from Prometheus and things like this. But she is most noted for the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the original Swedish version.
Yeah,
the Millennium series.
Which I'm going to tell you, I think is better than the American version.
Oh, it is. It's very much so.
Much better.
Yeah, it's very much so.
You will have to read it, but get over yourselves. Yeah. It's a better series of movies.
Over in the Millennium Trilogy.
There you go.
So this movie is what did I tell you? Icelandic. So it is a subtitled movie.
Get over yourself.
It only features like 3 or 4 characters. So
there's not that much dialogue, so there's not that much reading.
It's a story about this couple who live in Iceland in the mountains somewhere.
Yeah, they're like goat farmers. Yeah, sheep farmers. Sheep herders.
That's pretty much it.
That's all you need to know.
They're sheep, and then they find something in the barn, or it's a baby lamb.
Baby lamb here.
So they start taking care of it, and then just some weird shit starts happening.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So I enjoyed this movie. There is very little dialogue, and it's mostly just scenery and the reading of their emotions. And to me, because it is only like 3 people in the whole thing, it's really focused on her and her husband. And you can tell
some shit has gone down that we don't know about.
Yes, there's something there because they don't speak that much, and
they don't seem happy.
They don't seem happy.
But they don't seem unhappy.
They're just very like mono. Their life seems.
They all have mono. I didn't get that part.
It's very monotone. The life is monotonous. It's just day in, day out. There's a scene where they show him sweep up the hay, put new hay. And she goes through and she checks all the sheep. She writes her notes and she goes cook. I mean, it's very just this.
The opening of the movie is kind of unnerving, and it's not even a horrific thing. It's literally just watching. It's like that movie Gunda. You're just watching. There's no music. There's nothing. You're just watching the sheep in this barn. Mm-hmm. They're eating and they're just walking around. And they're bumping into each other and they're trying to come in and out of this doorway.
Yeah, and you can tell something weird.
Something creepy happens, but it's like you're just watching and it's like you start realizing that life is just creepy sometimes.
It is.
Just watching animals and there's nothing there but the animals, and you're watching in a setting where you're not engaging with the animals. It's like, this is a little creepy.
I feel like though that's the vibe we start with on purpose because you can tell there's something going on with the relationship, because if you and I were the only 2 people in this massive land surrounded by mountains, I'd be talking to you day and night because I would be so bored.
Talking to me
I know.
So
so can you imagine being there? It puts you in such a feeling of isolation as the movie starts. And I think it's on purpose.
Then it gets weird when they're dealing with take care of the baby lamb, because you can tell that they have issues with one, and they have another one, and then you can tell, okay, this must be an ongoing issue. They're struggling to have more,
Yeah.
You assume that they never showed them shearing them, so you're assuming they sell them for meat or something to the thing. We don't really ever know.
Yeah, you don't really know.
But there's something important about them trying to reproduce, I guess, more lambs for the farm.
Yeah.
And as they're taking care of this lamb, nothing seems weird about it, other than how attached to the lamb they are.
Yeah, like she's doing this, like she's carrying it around.
Yeah, they started treating it like it's their child, which then makes you think, okay, there's some kind of a loss issue.
Yeah.
And there's this lamb as representation of, hey, I have something to take care of for it. And then it just goes in this direction.
It goes off in a weird direction. So you got to stick with it, though.
It is slow.
It is slow paced. There's not a lot of dialogue. It's more just watching what they're happening. But a lot is happening without them talking.
I'm going to say, I think this movie is brilliant.
I agree.
It's bizarre. It's weird.
Out there.
It has moments where you're just, it could easily become laughable in an element of it. But it's the way it's handled. If you really,
it got me.
Yeah,
like that really, one scene, I was like, oh my God.
You start thinking.
You start thinking, you know what it is?
Yeah, we both started discussing, like, do you think? No. And then it happens, and it's not quite what you think, but it's
kind of
maybe what you think. But then you're like, okay, now this is just stupid. And then as it goes forward, you start like, but wait a minute.
Yeah, you get all involved. But then I think they're putting us in their seat of being all involved and invested in like what's happening. And then you get the mysterious stranger that shows up out of nowhere. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to come and like kill these poor people. And it's not that at all.
And it's a weird stuff because this isn't a spoiler, but this car pulls up, throws him out of the car, and then they leave.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy's going to be trouble.
Yeah.
Then he shows up and you're like, they're nice to him, and you're like,
no, I'm like, oh, they must know who he is.
Yeah, it goes in a weird direction.
But having that third outside element is like, that's us, the viewer, coming into this weird, bizarre scene right now, and he's asked like, what the hell? And the guy, he's like, no, don't say anything.
And here's what,
and I'm like,
here's the brilliance that I felt for this movie, because, like I said, I recognize this movie will not work for everybody. The brilliance is there's no explanation.
Correct.
To anything.
Correct.
Like, you have your own explanation of what you think happened. You have your own explanation of how it plays out, what the purpose behind the message is. Because the whole movie is about loss and acceptance and life and death. And it's like, it's a little bit of everything that everyone goes through all the time in a very strange kind of, and I think it's billed as kind of a fairy tale. Kind of dark fairy tale thing. It's not a scary movie. It's not a bloody movie. There's no animals like murdered. I mean, there's animals that die, but they're not like guts and blubber.
Yeah, no, there's no blood and guts. But it's interesting.
Just weird.
I read an interview of hers later, and she's like, how the ending of the movie is actually a happy ending in her point of view. Which, even so, there's more. It's like a repeat of the. I don't know, guys. I don't want to tell you, but there's loss.
A lot of subtext in this movie.
There's loss, but at the end, do you get? I don't want to go personal, but do you get?
I understand what.
Do you get to a point of acceptance?
Yeah.
Like, it's never gonna not bother you.
Yeah.
Or make you sad, but you get to a point where it's like, okay, this happened.
Yeah, because there was something else we just watched recently that was bothering me.
I know, all these movies, and then
what were we watching?
I start thinking of you, and I'm like, oh,
what were we watching today? It was really bothering me.
I don't know, but somebody lost a child or something.
Was it a TV show?
Maybe. I don't know. They went there.
Know. I had a daughter pass away years ago, so that stuff starts to get, and it's weird. It doesn't always bother me, but it was The Neighborhood.
Oh my gosh, The Neighborhood. Yes. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's like sometimes that stuff doesn't bother me. It's like on that stepping away from this, but this was years and years. I mean, I'm talking 20 plus years ago. And I can talk about it, sometimes make jokes about it or whatever. I'm fine with it. I'm not like PTSD traumatized now. But it's weird, the things that bother you about it or bother me about it. Like, we're watching The Neighborhood and the whole episode is about someone losing a child. It wasn't the lady upset about it. It was the other person that had lost one years ago and hadn't dealt with it. And I remember those times in my life back then and being like, I totally relate. And then it starts making the memories come back. And it's just,
And then I was crying over it. It was this dumb sitcom that makes me cry. Like, come on, you're supposed to be funny.
But I could see the parallels in this movie of dealing with loss.
Yeah.
That's why, like, early on, I think I even told you, I was like, they lost a kid or something else is going on, because I've seen that look and I've had that look and I recognize.
Well, then that means they did a good job.
Yeah, I recognize the behavior, because it tends to not only torture you, but it also will put the couple apart. You know, and 90%, and this is my own theoretical number, I don't know the exact number, majority of people that lose a child separate. It's rare they stay together. And it wasn't me and her that lost a child. It was me and my ex-wife. And we didn't separate for that, but we didn't build on what we had. So essentially it still was a catalyst for the end of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, there were other issues. I'm not defending it. That's not why. But anyway,
but that's the movie Lamb.
That is a movie that I recommend to watch, but keep a big open mind.
I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. Too. I liked where we went, and when that happened, I'm like, oh, is this real? And I'm like,
when they did the ending, I was just like,
he's like, did we really just see what we saw?
And then I'm like, okay, we're about to find all this stuff out, and then nothing happened. You're like, did I fall asleep and miss some of it?
She says it's a happy ending.
Oh, I understand the happiness what she found, because it found the inner peace, and it kind of ends the monotony of their life. And
correct.
And there's a lot of elements there, but
man,
I have something else to tell you, but I can't say it.
This takes you on a journey, and I love her.
Yeah, she's really good.
She can just do no wrong to
check out Lamb. It's in theaters. It might be limited release. I don't know. If you can find it, check it out. I don't know if it's on demand. I don't even know how it was released. I just know that I saw it. Good. I enjoyed it.
And it's Icelandic.
Yes, you do have to read it.
It's pretty cool.
Let's see if it shows. It says it's in theaters, so just see if you can find it.
You've got to watch this movie.
You may like it, you may not. It is a unique experience, if anything else.
Yeah, I loved it. That's going to go on my top movie list.
I was thinking it might go on mine, just because it's a strange, clever, and I think it's one of those two.
It's different.
It's artsy.
Yeah.
It's original for sure.
Yes.
But it's also the kind of movie that I can't imagine why somebody would let them make that. Like, how does that pitch go? Like, come in here, it's like, okay, so here's what we want to do. And I'd be like, you're going to have to get out of my office. That is the dumbest thing. Because hearing it, I would be all in. I mean, like, but to me, it would be like Troma should make this. From the pitch. Like, if I told you exactly what's happened, or if you've seen it, think about how to tell that story. Like, verbally to you. If I was to tell you the story, the synopsis, the plot.
I think you leave out that part at the end. You just say,
but you can't, because they need another payoff. And they're like, okay, so what is this about? Where's this thing going? Okay, well, here's the twist. And they'll be like, you guys to leave. It's weird. But I mean, they've made weirder stuff, so who knows?
True.
Somebody saw the brilliance.
We have seen weirder
and
stuff.
I would applaud A24, the company, the distribution movie company, whatever they're called, studio. They put out all this stuff. They put out Hereditary. They put out Midsommar. They put out this. They put out. I think they're putting out. I don't know if they're putting out Antlers or not. I don't know. Anyway, they put out a lot of really good movies like this.
I like stuff like this because it's different.
Did they put out The
Finally, I like original films.
You never saw The Lobster, did you? With Colin Farrell?
I
don't think you did. I saw it by myself.
I feel like I heard him talking in our house, but
no, I saw it at the theater.
Maybe not. Then
so, anyway,
who knows? All right, next.
Check out Lamb, and then if you hate it, keep it to yourself. If you love it, let us know.
I loved it. I'm okay if you don't like it. I can understand. Okay, I'm going here.
All right. We have not had any conversation about these movies.
We have not. So these are the last two movies in the Blumhouse.
Welcome to the
Blumhouse annual. It seems like now it's an annual Halloween or October event.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. When last year they did 4 movies. They released them one every week in October. This year they did 4 more, but this time they released them in 2 weeks and 2 movies at a time. So the first 2 were Bingo Hell and Black as Night, which was interesting, the responses I got from people, because we got one that thought it was a super, Black as Night was a super racist movie and didn't understand. They thought it was like a step back. We didn't get any of that.
I thought it was empowering.
I know. Then we also got the quote shared from Bingo Hell for the director from your review.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting ride for these 2 movies.
Now we got the next 2. This one is The Manor.
This one was my least interested one, and I think might have been up there.
4?
Yeah, and I think might have been up there as some of my favorite by the time I saw it.
Really, you weren't interested at all, and then you really dug it.
It just the poster was intriguing, but then reading the story and stuff, I was like, I mean, it's got Barbara Hershey in it, which I like. But yeah, I was just like,
Hmm.
I don't know. There's something that just wasn't connecting with me at the time. But
So basically, the Manor is the story of an older.
in a manner of speaking,
is an older lady. She's the grandmother. The family's been taking care of her, and supposedly she's beginning to show signs of dementia. And she makes the decision to move into a retirement community in this house called the Manor, or Manor, the Manor, whatever. I don't know what the property's called. It's the Manor. So she moves into the Manor, and then strange things begin to occur.
let me rephrase my statement. I think Bingo Hell was my favorite.
So far,
I'm really thinking about it. I think of the Bingo Hell was because it was so much fun.
I think the next
it had Richard Brake.
Yeah, I think the next one's my favorite, and then
I
Bingo
really
Hell.
dug this film because of I didn't like the direction it ended with. For me, this was kind of like for you the Hereditary ending. I felt like it was
and I was completely opposite. I was surprised that they went that way.
I was expecting, I think, this.
You were? Because typically you do the opposite.
See, and I felt this is where they're going. They're going to end up.
See, and I did. It was unexpected, so I liked the ending.
Yeah,
anyhow,
I didn't hate the ending. It just, it was just one of those things, and the explanation behind everything I wrote in my review is kind of. It's intriguing, like obviously for you, but because I kind of figured out what I thought was going to happen, and that's what happened, it lost its impact.
See, it went opposite to me, so that's why I think I was still impacted.
But I think what really works that we don't get enough of is older people being the leads of a film like this.
Yes, so that was the one thing I wanted to talk about. So this all takes place in this retirement home community, and obviously one of the underlying messages is about how people are treated in retirement homes. We've seen things on the news and horror stories. They're just isolated, kicked to the curb. Nobody comes to visit them. But even so, sometimes the care they receive isn't up to par. Like they just lock them in their rooms and leave them there. And so this kind of explores a little bit of that, but it does go in a more kind of dark, sinister direction a little bit of people, mysterious happenings are occurring and people are suddenly just kind of dying off.
Yeah, and what I find in that same vein is one of the big things that typically happens with seniors. Because I deal with seniors all the time. I teach senior fitness and things like this. So I have conversations with them. But one of the things that happens a lot outside of abuse and things in nursing homes is also people stopped listening to them because their mind may be going, or somebody. If you could easily have someone say, "Look, their mind's not okay anymore. They're struggling with things." So then people start dismissing their things they're saying. And so, like in this movie, there's a whole underlining tone of, because of the weird things happening here, they're telling them, the family,
don't listen to her.
She's got early Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever it is. And so then immediately, instead of questioning it and talking to her, they're like, don't listen to your grandmother. She's kind of losing it now.
Correct. I mean, and there's even one scene where the doctor, they supposedly are showing some test results, and they tell the lady, you need to wait outside. I'm going to talk to your daughter. She's like, but this is my test results. I want to know what my test results say. And they're like, no, you can't. Like, she's dismissed. And I think that's so rude. Like, you have the right to know. Even if you may not understand it, you still have the right to know what's going on with you.
If you have dementia or anything, why can't you still hear about it? Because you're going to be upset, but if that's true,
you might forget about it anyway.
So the concern of stressing them out is bullshit.
Yeah, I think it's bull. So this brings up a lot of that. And I think one of the greatest relationships in this is actually the grandmother and the grandson. He becomes her advocate. And
I was very upset because there is a moment that he starts buying into the crap from everybody else. And I'm like, don't do this. It's such a cliche Hollywood thing because they finally give a relationship where he doesn't look like the kind of kid that'd be close to his grandmother.
Correct. He looks like,
but he's super close and he always believes her. And I'm like, that's right. But he's also kind of the one that kind of comes back around. Now, where they went in the finale of the movie, I didn't expect. So that's the difference of like, and I don't know which part. Like I'm talking about the part that I figured out was the reasoning behind everything.
Oh no, that was fine. But
that's where it kind of let me know.
No,
what they ended up doing, I was like, wow, okay, I didn't expect them to
that's
go that
what
direction.
I didn't expect to happen. But
yeah, I lost the impact because I already kind of figured out
how and why
it was happening, and I thought it was like, it was kind of a cop out. but the twist for what they did with that made it kind of bring you back in a little bit.
Yeah.
Even if it was still kind of but
there was one cool random thing. I don't know if you caught the cat story.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was this whole story on the news about some nursing home and the cat. The cat would go to the different people before they died. Yeah, the death cat. Yeah. So it's funny because it's just there's a random thing in here.
Yeah, that they say every time this cat goes to somebody that dies. That scene made me laugh.
Yeah, because the lady's like, no, get
out here.
Anyways, the Manor, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it, and I liked that there was the majority of the cast was a bunch of older people, and they were really good.
Bruce Davison's always good.
All these people were good.
Barbara Hershey's good. Yeah, they were, and it wasn't. Even though there's a twist to it, it wasn't anything degrading to old people.
Correct.
It was dealing with crap that they deal with.
Yeah, and I like that these old people, they were fighting back.
Yeah,
loved it.
So anyway. So it is on Amazon Prime right now, along with Bingo Hell and what was the other one?
Blackest Night.
But there's still one more. One more, my friends.
This one is called Madres.
Madres. Not to be confused with Madres, which is what the white people say.
Yeah.
This is the fourth film.
This is the fourth film.
And you don't need to. None of these movies connect, so it's not a case of.
That's fine.
You gotta watch
They're all independent, separate movies.
But since this is a Spanish film, tell us what it's about, my Spanish queen.
So, this is the story set in the, I want to say 60s, 70s, early 70s. It's a story about this couple. The husband's from Mexico. The lady happens to be from California. Okay, she's a U.S. citizen. She is Mexican, but from here. And they're migrant workers. And so he's traveling to a new town where he's going to be made the supervisor of the migrant workers because he happens to speak English and Spanish. So he's getting moving up, okay? Moving on up. And they get to this new little town, and it's one of those just kind of, I feel like desolate, isolated little towns where all of the Mexican people, like, y'all have to talk to yourselves over there and you can't interact with the rest of the city. Because if you notice, we don't ever see really that many white people. We see maybe 3. And it's only because
very offended.
They work in a hospital, okay? And the lady happens to be pregnant with her first child. Yeah. She's having some difficulties. And when she gets to this town, you start to see that there's something going on. And a lot of the Madres are having problems.
Yes.
That's what we know. So this one...
This is yet another one we haven't discussed at all.
This one, I think, is my favorite. I think simply because of the subject matter and the time period and some, in a random way, correlation to my own family. So the main girl in this one, the lady, she's saying how her parents came in the 50s and 60s. And back then, you weren't allowed to speak Spanish in schools or whatever, or you would be punished.
Right.
So this is now taking me back to my mother and why maybe she is the way she is.
Why did you?
So, yeah. So my grandparents were migrant workers. This would have been 40s, 50s. My mother is from that time period of the 50s, 60s. And looking back now at her pictures and stuff, like she had the cute little dresses.
She was very white, white girl.
Yeah, and the little headband with the swoopy hairdo. That was like she straightened her hair to have the.
Well, even now she still dyes her hair to like that.
She kind of a blondish.
It's really orange.
Yeah, and this had me rethink why my mom is the way she is. And it's not her fault. I think it's systemic, obviously. Of you didn't speak Spanish. I mean, you didn't want people to know you were Spanish.
There's some parts that are her fault. Let's just.
There were instances. I know there were instances like my mom will tell a story like her little best friend was Joella, and Joella invited her to her house, and then from that point, Joella said, "My mom says I can't be friends with you anymore." Yeah. So I mean, those were things that really happened, and so. I get it. I get the being isolated, being segregated into your own group, like you stay over there, because that's where you need to be. So that's kind of what this lady's feeling. And it's interesting because since she's from here, she actually doesn't speak Spanish, even though she's Mexican, but it's because her parents, they weren't allowed to speak it, so they never taught them, so they wouldn't get into trouble.
See, and I find
she marries a guy that's from Mexico, legit.
I find it funny because I found this movie until the end, and you get the explanation of what's happening and what's going on that is horrific, I was kind of bored.
Really?
But then I realized, after further reflecting, where it goes at the end is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's horrifying because it's real.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. But then I also realized I don't connect with it because I am not a Hispanic female. And that's why the impact isn't there for me. Like, I didn't hate the movie. It's a good movie. It's actually an important movie because of the direction it goes, which was not what I expected. And when it finally went there, I was like, oh, this is not okay. And then you're reminded
that's why.
You're reminded that they've been doing this. And then I started realizing, okay, there's a bigger message to this movie. It's not just the supernatural stuff that they're playing up because they play that up.
Yes.
But is it even there?
Correct.
But it goes into a real world problem that is still happening now. And some of the people out there be like, no, it's not. Oh, because those people also don't believe in the other stuff that's happening now. But I sat with it and I finished watching it. I had the impact of the ending, right? Where it went, how it played out, what was actually happening. I was like, okay, that ending made the rest of the movie work. But then the more I reflected, again, I realized it wasn't me. It wasn't something, it's kind of like Black Lives Matter and other things. I don't connect with it on that level because it's not happening to me. I'm part of it because I'm in an interracial relationship. I know, right? But it's kind of like we discussed a little earlier about the kid thing. You don't relate to that.
No, but I feel it.
You feel it because you feel my emotion, but you don't relate to what I'm dealing with, right?
Correct.
And there's even I have my review pulled up. There's even says, I think the initial disconnect comes from me not being Hispanic or female, hence I don't initially relate to what was happening.
Oh, see, I need to write a review. Because to me, I was instantly all in, and it was kind of mesmerizing to me. And I think on many levels. So I told you about that personal level, about the migrant workers, like my grandparents, my mother, that time period. Then...
Well, see, my grandmother, despite being a white lady...
Correct.
She wasn't per se a migrant worker, but she... As a child, she was like one of like 8 or 9 kids. She worked in the cotton fields. So I used to hear stories like this, but I'm hearing it from a white person. And it wasn't, we worked in the cotton fields and were beaten and ripped off and tortured or whatever. It was, that's what we did. It was hard work. And I had more of a respect factor of like, geez, I have it better, but not that the abuse that she might have taken as a female or she's also not a minority. But especially even continuing on the review thing I was talking about, I think I even said that, on the front of what I had said, it was more impactful to people that's going to connect with it more.
Absolutely.
And then as it played out, I began to see what they're really shining the spotlight on and how horrific it is and important it is and really sad.
Yeah.
It's these kind of things that are more terrifying than real horror movies because it's actually happening.
And real life is the horror. So, I got through that initial thing. Then we get to this lady having the baby and having difficulties with the baby. And then you see that a lot of the other ladies are having difficulties. And then this led me to remember the story of my brother. So my brother was born an emergency C-section because he had the umbilical cord wrapped around him. He wasn't breathing and his heart wasn't going right. I mean, so I'm imagining that. But then this brings in a little bit of the supernatural element that culturally it just seems normal to me a little bit. You go to the curandera, they give you the special amulet or whatever for protection. And then the husband's like, well, if you think we're cursed, let's do a test. And I'm like, they're going to do the egg. And they did the egg. Oh, I was so happy. They did the egg. So if you don't understand what that is.
If you don't know the egg and the... You're supposed to crack it under the bed.
Yeah, so you rub it all over the evil, and then you put it under your bed, and you sleep overnight. And then when you crack it's supposed to. If it's bloody or black or whatever, there's a curse.
And they did an interesting thing with it. In this one, they don't normally. Most movies they drop in it's black yolk. Yeah. This one, it was spotted like somebody had seasoned it. And so she's even looking at it, poking, but until she poked it, even though it was so bright yellow, then it oozed the black.
That was such a.
Then it added that supernatural element that's still never really explained. So you don't know, there's a real world element to it, but they added a supernatural element.
I love it.
And you don't know if maybe that egg was just spoiled.
No. So they did that. And then what I liked about this is even though it's a lady who's, probably not supposed to be doing stuff. She takes it upon herself to go do some research herself, and she's trying to solve the mystery.
Yeah.
And so she's like, maybe it's something that's happening to all the workers in the field. And then so she starts asking around. She's trying to figure it out. And they're like, oh, be careful. Don't do that. But she didn't care. And I think that's the other thing that you got to recognize about Latin women is we don't care. We don't listen to nobody. We do what we want to do.
This is a factual statement because I live with
So I appreciated that about her, that even though, maybe all the people weren't with her, but she was trying to figure out, is it something that's happening in the field to the workers? Are they being exposed to something? So, that kind of leads us through our journey to finally it's time for her to have the kid. What's going on?
Yeah.
And she continues to investigate. And like you said, she finds out what happened. And it leads us to, even though there's a lot of supernatural stuff happening, it leads us to reality as horror, which I loved, and I agree with you. That's more horrific sometimes than something supernatural.
My problem with this movie is, one, if you're like me and you're not the people affected, you may not connect with it. If you don't believe this kind of stuff is happening, you're not going to connect with it.
It does happen.
And if you don't give it the chance, you may bail early because it's very slow. But it's kind of by design. It's trying to suck you into the culture, suck you into the story, build the intrigue, build the mystery. It's trying to take you off the path before throwing you back on the right path. It's worth finishing, but I don't know if this one will connect with everybody. Like Bingo Hell is one of those that's just crazy, can connect with everybody. I would have normally said Black as Night, I thought would connect with everybody. It could just be on either just loving a vampire movie or the cultural aspect. But clearly I've had someone that went off the rails on it.
This I totally connect. Even with the end when she's finding things about different people and you see the people there and she's remembering stuff, like that got me emotional. Like I was crying about these ladies. So it did totally connect with me. I guess, like you said, you're not the main target audience, but
it's the impact of what is happening.
At the end, though,
you also don't have to be. If you're female, the whole movie will have a bigger impact to you. If you're Hispanic, it's even more.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what I mean. I don't want a female to say, "Oh, well, I'm not Hispanic. I'm not."
Well, I think if you're a minority, too. Because this has happened to not just Latino, it's happened to other minority groups that we've read about.
But it's mostly,
unless you're going to be like, history is not real. Well, you're a crazy person, but it does happen. So you need to check it out. Madres. And I never even caught that was a bloody bassinet.
Oh, you didn't catch that?
No, I just thought it was just blood.
I stared at that image for a long time trying to figure out if that picture was supposed to be something else.
No, it's a bassinet.
Not their bassinet. Their faces making some other image.
I don't know.
I haven't seen anything if it is, but.
Oh, well.
Anyway,
it's available on Amazon
Bingo Hell, Madres, The Manor, and Black as Night are all available on Amazon Prime for this year's Welcome to the Blumhouse. Check them out. Decide for yourself. Have a good time. And you can always watch the previous one with Evil Eye.
Mm-hmm.
And the other ones, I don't know what they are now.
Evil Eye, I think, was my favorite. The other one was the one about the music.
Yeah, that was my least favorite. I liked Evil Eye, though.
Yeah. So
all right, moving
there
on.
you go. All right. Are we going to go here? Because that was last week, and then we go here.
That's fine.
Okay.
So last week, it was supposed to be our big James Bond episode. That's why I still have the James Bond collection. For anybody that's wondering about this, I purchased this. So before you start going, oh, look, he gets sent. I bought this one. My own money. Thank you very much.
Sorry, my screen has stopped working.
We're not on?
Yeah, we are. My screen share.
But this one is actually the James Bond collection. It features every single James Bond movie in the collection outside of obviously the new one. It also does not include the original Casino Royale because that's not actually the James Bond mythology. That's a whole separate kind of a comedy. But it does have every single movie, and it's labeled on the sides the years from 1962 all the way to 2015.
And it's all the Bonds?
It's every single James Bond movie.
Nah.
The first set is 1962 to 77, then 79 to 2002, then 2006 to 2015.
Does it have what's his name?
Who?
That I like that you don't?
Excuse me.
Ooh.
There. That's all the movies in there.
Oh, my.
It's like
20, but it does have.
It's every one of them.
Oh, okay. From
Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, George Lazenby, Daniel Craig. Is there anybody else I'm listening to?
Connery. What's his
Roger
name?
Moore.
Timothy Dalton.
Oh, no, that's George Lazenby. That's Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig.
There
So that's all of them.
All right, all the Bonds.
Next. So we're going to obviously talk about the latest and final entry in the Daniel Craig parts of the story of his tenure as James Bond, No Time to Die. Yes. Before we jump into it, I'm not going to, because of time, we kind of missed our chance to do the big long
we got time.
Well, we got to talk about another movie. So instead of going through all the movies, we'll just do a quick recap. Of basically, you do need to watch the other Daniel Craig movies if you haven't watched this. I am
so glad we went back and watched them.
Yeah, so you have the series of Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre. I don't know if that was the right order or not, but I'm going to say it is.
Okay.
It is an ongoing story. So this new one, No Time to Die, is a culmination of everything that's happened from day one. Characters come back, are mentioned, discussed, handled, story elements come to a head. Everything is dealt with, being a full-on exclamation point on the history of Daniel Craig as James Bond. So I've seen the movie twice. I went to a press screening of it, and then we went together to see it. It is the longest James Bond movie at almost 3 hours. It's 2 hours and 40-something minutes. So anytime I see a movie that long, the first question I have is, does it hold up for a second viewing? If it doesn't hold up for second viewing, we got some problem.
Yeah, I agree.
But especially for James Bond movie. So I enjoyed it more the second time.
Oh, good.
Because it didn't feel as long the second time because I knew what I was getting. I think the first time I was like, okay, what else are they going to do? How long?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so what did you think of this latest entry?
I really enjoyed this movie. It did not feel long to me. I've only seen it once. It didn't feel long to me. I feel like the other one felt longer. Maybe Quantum of Solace. I don't know. One of those.
That is the least popular of the group.
Okay, that one felt longer to me than the others. I am happy that we watched all of them that week before because the new one immediately takes me back to the very first movie. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm glad I watched these.
Yeah, because it's easy to forget who some of these characters are by name. Because there's some stuff referenced that you only see their names. If you don't remember who that person is, it means nothing.
Correct.
You don't always get to see them in their face and be like, oh, that's so-and-so.
Correct. You just hear a name.
I will say that I feel it could have been trimmed. There were some elements that could have been trimmed down.
Oh, I think that's all of them.
Well, I know, but especially in this one. But I think the reasoning was because they were really trying to get you deeper involved in his relationships and his life and everything that's happened and trying not to rush it.
Yeah,
which I applaud them for. They were letting them finish the story.
Correct.
Without feeling like it ends and you're like, but what about so-and-so? What about this? And, So.
I think the other thing, though, to applaud this man because he's been doing these movies. It looks like since 2006.
Yeah,
and he's a mature man.
Oh, he's still looks. He's been injured on every single film, and every time one came out, he said he was not doing another one.
He looks good. He moves well. He does the action well. I don't know how much he does, but the running,
he does a lot of it.
The running and the shooting, and a lot of the jumping. And
he's broken his leg on here. He's broken wrist. Have you heard the Batista story?
No.
It's so funny.
Did he hit him? Well, I think you told me.
Yeah. So in the story, there's the fight on the train in Spectre, I think it is, where Batista essentially just plays like a brute.
Yes.
Like a henchman style character, and they have this big fight on the train, and it's a brutal fight. They're getting thrown around, and Craig talks about how, like, look, I'm feeling tough. I'm in this room with Batista, who's a wrestler. He's a big guy, and he's like,
he's a big guy.
Like, I just told him, throw me. Just throw me as hard as you can. Let's make this real. And so he said he threw the hell out of me. And he jacked up his leg. I don't remember if it was his knee or whatever it was. So he got healed, did whatever. He came back. So they're shooting the sequence. And I don't know if he got hurt another time or what. But anyway, he ends up punching Batista and really breaking his nose. He said, as soon as it happened, he goes, I just ran away. He goes, because I just realized this guy is going to kill me. He goes, because he's going to think I'm doing this because you hurt me. And he goes, but he could have been nicer. Nice guy. He said that he literally said Batista goes, put it back in place, and they kept shooting. I'm
going to tell you, because if you punch and it breaks that easy, it's probably because it's been broken a lot. So I think he's okay. Been there.
So anyway, so what are your thoughts on how they wrapped it up? What you think?
I enjoyed. I enjoyed it.
It's easy for you to say.
As I said, it opens taking us back to number one to wrap up one and some lingering issues. Then I feel like because we have some of the reoccurring characters, that's what I love about these series. You get the same people like Money, Penny, and Q, and M and M. They're Shnems.
M.
Yeah, I figure like that's what makes these things like meaty and full and just because you have everybody there. And even so, I mentioned one thing, like we've seen Q for like 3 movies now or whatever, but we learned something new about him. Like I didn't know. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm glad that's there. And then Moneypenny, and then we always talked about like, well, what happens if he goes away? Well, in a way, it's like we kind of know, but we don't. What
well,
could happen?
the trailer says that.
So
but,
you get this whole idea, and then it brings us back to the last movie where he was finally in love and going to run away with whoever.
We kind of had that in the first movie, and then it's ripped from him, and he's been angry and hostile the rest of the time.
And then he finally falls in love, and then it's just this
and
whole thing.
He's gonna get slapped in the face again.
I know
that's what happens to Bond.
So I liked everything about this. What I didn't like, this is so random. What's M's name? Is that Ralph?
Ralph Fiennes, Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes.
Yeah.
Is that Ralph or Ray?
It's Ray Fiennes.
Okay, whatever. I don't like his hair.
It's spelled Ralph, but
I don't like his hair, man. It's too short. It makes him look a little older than he should be.
He is older.
I know.
He's been around for a long time now.
I know, but
do you want him to look like Voldemort instead?
Yes.
With no hair and his weird face?
No, I didn't like his hair. That's my one complaint.
Wow. I don't like Venom's teeth, and I don't like M's hair.
And then Rami Malek, I'm torn.
I loved him in the movie, but he was underused. My problem is that he didn't really, okay, first of all, I think this is the most James Bond movie of any of the Daniel Craig movies.
I think that's what I don't like about him. He was too James Bond villain.
They had more gadgets this time around.
They did have more gadgets.
The villain seemed more like Dr. No and that kind of stuff. Because even when Blofeld shows up, they didn't make Blofeld all like, like Telly Savalas and the other ones, and Donald Pleasance from Halloween played Blofeld originally. Yeah. But yeah, this one, I loved it about that. It finally gave some levity to because the whole franchise with Craig, I was going to say Fregley from, what is that? I don't know. Oh, Fregley from? Those books about the woman. Anyway, I don't remember. Now I remember
Wimpy Kid.
I love him. I like that this finale is not only impactful, it's wrapping up the story, but it said, you know what, let's have some fun as well. And we got to see more of the gadgets. We got to see more Bond-like moments. And you have a villain who is interesting, kind of over-the-top played, yet still very subtle.
I'm torn. I love him.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And I felt more he was underused because he didn't get to do much.
Yeah.
It was the same thing because you see him in the commercials, not a spoiler, when they brought back Christoph Waltz as Blofeld. He's like barely in the movie. It was almost like, why? I know why, but he was kind of wasted. For someone that's just such a great actor and character, it's almost felt wasted to even bring him back. They could have just left him and not dealt with it.
Yeah.
But I understand why.
Yeah, we had to have one last thing.
This might be a spoiler to some people, but it's really not. I'm glad it wasn't another case of them trying to say, oh, this is in fact because there was a big long thing of them thinking he was Dr. No. And they never mentioned him being Dr. No. So with my limited James Bond memory, I'm pretty sure he wasn't. So there's not that stigma of like the Blofeld stigma of, oh, it is Blofeld, because that was everybody thought that too. And it was a cool twist. But this one felt like its own thing. What did you think of what they decided to do to cap that into it?
I think it was appropriate. I mean, I think that's what had to happen because otherwise I think everybody would still be in a state of like wondering like, oh, but
he could still do this again.
Is this going to happen? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do this? Are people going to now go do this because he's here? It would have just kept it going.
It's like this was a definitive ending to the story.
His story, correct.
With Spectre and everything that's happened. And I was actually happy. I don't know. I think there may be one other one that has a similar ending, but I don't think normally they're not. So let me ask you this, because this has been a big. We both obviously love No Time to Die.
Correct.
But you do need to watch the other one before you see it. It's in theaters now. It's blowing up the box office. It's already made $400 and something million worldwide. Especially in pandemic time, that's amazing. Yeah. But let me ask you this. There's been a lot of talk. James Bond, the character, is very sexist. It's always been about the womenizing, masculinity, all these kind of things. And even the Daniel Craig Bond, while not as bad as some of the early movies.
He's a womanizer.
Absolutely. There's still a lot of the toxic masculinity, if you will. So there's been discussions, even by Daniel Craig, who whoever the next James Bond is, because there will for sure be another James Bond, because this is a franchise. I don't know why other franchise can't figure this out.
Just change
how
they
can change the character and just make new movies. Some of the superhero ones feel like they can do that, but they don't. The other ones just be like, well, if they're not doing it, we're just going to stop. And somehow the world of James Bond and the fans of James Bond have been happy with it as it happens. You know, we all have our favorite Bonds. We have people that work, people that didn't work. But somehow they keep going. But even Craig has mentioned how he thinks the character is going to need a little bit of a makeover moving forward, because the world isn't always accepting now of
this,
that kind of behavior.
A very Sean Connery behavior.
Yeah, which is very much about just come serve me.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Too. So what is your thoughts on there? Do you think that's something that they need to change, or do you think that's something that can still work in this world of what they're building?
I think they could make a subtle shift, and it would still keep the idea of a James Bond intact. I mean, I think in any world where you have a super spy, you can easily write off some of the entanglements and sexual whatever as just they're working on a case. But I do think we have to change characters. I know some people are probably not happy with the perhaps to them extreme ideas of like a black James Bond or having a woman be the next whatever.
I am not okay with a woman 007 taking over, but I'm totally down for a spinoff series.
Why can't it be 008?
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. But I'm not against somebody like Idris Elba taking over. I'm not against a black James Bond.
As long as they're British.
Yes.
Because it's British intelligence.
It is. And I want...
I agree.
I
agree with myself.
I'm a purist from a standpoint of every property that don't change it for the sake of change it. Change it for the actor. But I don't think, because James Bond's based on a series of books, there's no logical way outside of just saying, this is the next 00. It's not going to connect. It's going to be too easy. Mm-hmm. And they kind of deal with that in the new one.
Yeah, correct.
And it's fine, but
they could be a 00 something else.
Yeah, I think if they do it more like the Ocean's 11 spinoff, where you have a series that's connected to these same characters with a new character.
Different
because
missions.
Two things. One, I don't think, even if I because I would still watch it and support it no matter what they did, because I don't care that much. They'd be all like, wow, women. You know, like a lot of people. But
these dang women trying to take over all the things that men do.
But I know I would be like, why can't this character have its own identity?
Yeah.
Why can't this one be like, okay, we're going to retire this character for this. We want to keep making this universe. We can go make a new James Bond, a new actor. We can move on with new stories. We can keep this universe alive with these same background characters and use these other characters. And like, I would love to see a movie about Ana de Armas's character. Mm. She is in the movie very, very small amount of time.
She did such a great job. I love her.
I love her anyway.
I'm convinced she is a nice, wonderful person. You just like to see her because she's cute.
Well, I think she's a great actress too. I've been a fan long before you were.
I know.
She's in that movie. You probably don't even know this. Knock Knock, which is an Eli Roth movie with her and Keanu Reeves, and that's the one with the two girls show up at his house and start beating him up and raping him and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I've loved her since then, and I wanted to hug her after her and Ben Affleck broke up. It was so sad, so sad. But anyway, she's
back with Jennifer. So it's okay.
But yeah, her character steals the movie in my opinion. It's just a small amount of time because she's bubbly, she's fun, she carries the action. She's one I'd like to see, and I'd be interested to see the other lady. I don't know her name. That was the kind of the other
Bond
or 00. Another 008.
She was a 00 agent. Sorry.
Agent. I would like to see a movie with her too. I think
that's what I'm telling you. They could do so many of these if they just went with 00 stories.
Yeah, why not do it like
because they tell you it's a 00 program.
Yeah, why not do it like the like say the Sopranos movie did, where it's called The Many Saints of Newark, a Soprano story.
Yeah,
they could always do a James Bond tale, or an MI6 tale. And
they have Meet the New Agent, so there's various agents, so we could do various stories, like you said.
You could do a lot of stuff, and I think it's a world they could still explore. They could give their own
Lashana Lynch.
Yes, she's the one that played. She was in Captain Marvel. She played Monica Rambeau or whatever the mom's name was.
Yeah.
But I think it's a world that could and should be explored, because it would keep that version of that James Bond world alive. There's ways to infuse James Bond if you want to make a cameo or something for a story or missions or whatever. But there's still. You can still bring him back. There's so many other Q and all these characters, and then they can still bring a whole other James Bond and do their whole other story.
Correct. There you go.
Hell, I've heard Amazon now owns, or is supposedly going to be owning, the James Bond property. Maybe do a TV series with those other characters.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Who knows? But we'll see what happens.
Anyways.
No Time for Die is in theaters now.
No Time to Die.
We both loved it. I think it's perfect cap. I can't wait for it to hit Blu-ray and DVD. When it does, we'll probably rewatch them all again.
It's good.
Now, for the finale of today's show.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yet another sequel. Oh, that was my crotch, dog.
This dog is getting little.
It wouldn't be
feisty.
October unless you got a Halloween movie, and this time we got the sequel to 2018's Halloween, which was in fact a sequel to the original 1970s Halloween, Halloween Kills, which is part of a trilogy. So if you don't know this, there will be another movie called Halloween Ends next year.
And I don't think some people know this. I don't think that was clear.
Well, it was clear when they advertised it, because when they originally advertised this last year prior to it getting bumped because of the pandemic, they released a teaser trailer that said, in 2020, Halloween Kills. In 2022, Halloween Ends. It's been promoted for years.
Okay, well.
But I think people have forgotten. So
people didn't.
What you have to understand with this new movie is this is a middle of a story. So it's going to feel incomplete.
Feel middle of the story.
This is very much a middle story and nothing more. So if you, I don't want to say if you like the 2018 or whatever it was, David Gordon Green, Danny McBride version film, that you'll love this one, because I've had people that loved it and loved this one, and I've had other people that loved this one and hated this one. So this has been a very divided film already.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And there's elements I love, and I love the film as a whole. I'm just going to say this, but there's elements that I had an issue with.
Okay.
So let's dive into it. We ended the last film, which was the perfect ending. I meant to set up Michael, but we didn't.
That's what I was going to look. I'm like, that's not Michael.
I had every
intention.
I had every intention to set up Michael.
Because we have a Michael too. Don't worry, they're all equally represented in our house.
Pinhead's the only one not. I need a Pinhead.
Oh.
Okay, so the last movie was a sequel to the original 1970s. They ignored all the other sequels. It deals a lot with like some PTSD stuff, but I would have been perfectly fine had that been the movie, because it had a good ending.
It did have a good ending.
It was good. It was impactful. It respected the source material. It would have been a good ending, and they didn't need another one. But they had an idea, moved forward. This one picks up where the last one leaves off, but also before that, kind of showing us not only going back to the 70s, but also going back to earlier in the evening, where you deal with some other things, all building up to getting us back caught up, getting more characters connected, and moving forward.
Yes.
What did you think of this film?
I love this movie. I think just at the movie starts, and we are immediately at the same time as where the last movie ended. It immediately just picks up.
Eventually we are. But remember, there's other stuff that happens. But yeah.
Well, no, for 1 second, and then it takes us somewhere else, and then it comes back.
No.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
It didn't go flashback immediately.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
We're gonna have to go watch it again.
Well,
put it on the TV.
We can pay $4.99 and we can watch it. I'll tell everybody how in a minute.
Anyways, I just like that we're literally continuing our story. Okay, yes. But we are learning new information. There's some flashback. So we're getting all filled in. And what I love that movies do, like I just said in this series, is when we have my original characters come back.
Yeah, there's
some that aren't, but there's some that are.
There's a new character that comes in, or not a new character, a character from the last movie I'd completely forgot about. The guy at the dance. I'd completely moved on after the events from the last movie.
Yeah.
And I'll remember when he shows up walking down the street, we were both like, oh yeah.
That's where we're at in our story. No, but I'm telling you, like people from the beginning.
I know, from the 70s.
From the 70s.
But I'm just saying yes. I like when they deal with the characters that really aren't important.
Yeah, secondary characters.
He was important in the first movie.
But he was
we
still
forgot
out
anything
there.
had happened with him, and then you see you're like, oh yeah.
It's still Halloween night, people. Yeah. We still got to deal with this. It's not morning yet. Yeah, There's a lot of time for some killing.
This one it brings back some of the original actors and actresses from the original 70s film. Mm-hmm. It touches base on some of the original characters. There's some other characters that were mentioned that are now played by other people.
Yes.
You get some flashbacks to the 70s dealing with how some other characters that you didn't know theoretically met the same character. There's a lot of elements that were kind of cleverly crafted, which I've talked to some other people that hated it. They hated the way it was crafted. They didn't think the timelines added up. I didn't get that, but
I mean,
each their own. I know somebody else that just thought it ruined the idea of the story. It just made no sense. It was all over the place. It was
because
ridiculous.
we got flashback.
No, it was just like one of my reviewer friends hates. He's like, he's been posting nonstop about how much he hates this movie and all the issues with it, and he loves the original Halloween. He loves. I know he knows the director or has interviewed him personally. He hates everything about this movie, and I don't know. I really don't know completely why, despite reading his stuff. But I also, in the midst of our discussion, also ended with "to each their own," which that's how we end our conversations, and that's why we can have a respectful conversation because. He's not required to like what I'm like, and I'm not required to like what he likes.
Yeah.
And we can still be friends.
Guys.
What a shock. Yeah, we're doing just fine. Stop.
I'm going to have to kick somebody out. Get up there and lie down. Lie down. I think I can understand, though, so moving on to a new topic is just, I guess, the filmography and style of this movie is, I think, different than some other Halloween movies.
Well, this one, somebody mentioned, the same person actually, did mention this one felt more like a Rob Zombie Halloween movie. That didn't help his argument with me because I love those movies. Yeah. So I'm an unapologetic fan of the entire franchise. I recognize their flaws, but I love every movie in the Halloween franchise despite some of the bad ones.
Yeah.
But this one, what I saw in this film is this is a hyper violent. It feels like it's violent to be violent's sake. At first glance, if you just look at it, what it is tons of kills. There's a lot of body count. Some of them are kind of silly. Some of them are horrific. All of it worked for me because that's what I want from my slasher flicks. Halloween was kind of known for not being super graphic. That's what Friday the 13th did.
Correct.
It took Halloween was made, and the Friday the 13th says, let's see what we can do to make it worse.
Right. Because all you saw was a lot of this.
Yeah, but in this one, what I saw from this was a pissed off character. This was somebody who not only went through this stuff in the 70s, now came back, has been set on fire, and he's just more and more pissed.
Correct.
Then there's an element at the end that plays off to other parts of some directions they went with the character, and some of the other installments have nothing to do with the two, but the same idea that makes it make more sense whether you want to buy into that or not.
Correct. I mean, it's essentially building that whole mythos of even like these two guys that they're pure evil. They're more than human. It's just pure evil personified.
Yeah, because essentially Jason in the later films became a zombie.
He died.
He died. All these people die every movie.
And Freddy got killed too. He
all
came back.
Well, Freddy was supernatural from the beginning because his real life version of him was murdered because he was a child molester.
And he came back.
He was murdered, and then he became a supernatural character in their dreams. So he was supernatural from day one. Jason was always kind of a supernatural element to him, but they even went so far where he was dug up from the grave and struck by lightning and brought back, and almost became a zombie.
But we know his story is because he was bullied, so he fought back. Yeah. This Michael Myers thing, we never know. He was just crazy. He was just a 6-year-old kid.
This goes back,
and I've said this quote sister
billions of times in my life, probably on this show 100 times. This goes back to my favorite Jess Foxworthy quote. Yeah. So if they had Michael Myers on a talk show, I added the Michael Myers part. Sometimes you just want to see somebody in a talk show that says, you know what? My mom was great. My dad was great. I'm just a shithead. That's Michael Myers. Yeah. He is just evil.
He's just evil.
When
you never know why.
There's no story of like, well, he was abused or he was just, no, he was.
We've been waiting for 40 years.
He killed his sister and everything because.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of there's some dialogue too while things are happening here that, they're like, well, why? What was he looking at? What was he doing? I mean, there's no reason. It's just evil.
Now, there are elements of this movie that I did have issues with.
Okay.
There's two sub-stories that happen. One of them happens really quick. I think it's handled brilliantly about an older couple. And it's kind of funny. It's quick. And it moves on.
Yeah.
That one I think is handled. Had this other part of the story been handled the exact same like that. I think it would have worked perfect because there's an element of these two characters called Big John and Little John. And it was important to what they were going for, but it felt like it went on too long for no reason. That they were entertaining, but they didn't feel like to me they were in the same movie as the rest of them.
I know. It added a little levity to the movie that perhaps in a slasher film you don't need.
Yeah, because I I had another reviewer friend when he wrote his review, because he went to the screening and I didn't get to, but we watched it later. But I read his review before, and he hated this movie, but he talked about how it just seemed too funny. Like somebody decided to, are we making a horror movie or comedy? Let me go funny.
It's a little too much levity.
But he thought the same thing about their kills. A lot of the kills he thought were too funny too, which I didn't get that.
I didn't get that.
But to each their own.
The interesting thing though about those characters, that in a way they were creating reverence to the whole story of Michael.
I get that.
I liked that element, but I agree it was a little too funny.
Yeah, it could have. They could have done that
more.
The
horror.
Second story they had, they could have. Because you see them like 2 or 3 times. The final time we see them, or the final time we see them, before it actually comes to a head and what they go with, they could have gone to that scene, took a little piece of each one of the times we saw them, put it all in that one scene, like those other people, and it would have been done, and we didn't need the rest of it. And I think it would have been a more powerful thing. My other thing was there is, and I was all ready to argue with somebody about, there's a chant where evil dies tonight. And somebody posted about how they kept saying it after the 45th time. It's just ridiculous and stupid. So I was all ready to argue about it, right?
Yeah.
But after I saw the movie, I was irritated by it. But then the more I sat with it, I realized it's what mobs do. They start chanting shit. And it's annoying in real life, too.
Yeah. And so the movie deals a little bit with that whole mob mentality. And I feel like, in a way, dealing with what we're seeing, or what we've seen recently with just the mob mentality. People, in a way, trying to like rise up and let's get together and let's fight the evil that's out there. But you always have that group of people that are like, what's everybody doing? I don't know. Let's just follow them and do whatever. So I think it was dealing with that whole thing.
Yeah, there's an element that some people may, and it
may be too political.
I have no idea about the writing. I know some of the stuff Jamie Lee Curtis has posted. I wouldn't be surprised where like somebody refers to the mob as sheep. And it's funny because sheep is usually who the people that are against what the population is doing is going for, which would be the Trump people and all them. They're usually the ones calling sheep. The other side are usually the ones that are trying to do whatever. In this case, it's almost like it's flipped, but it's not really political, but it can easily be perceived as that.
Yeah.
I don't think it was intentionally political, although I think there was an element of it there.
Yeah, I think some people could get that as the
But I think it was more for connecting to what's going on in the world, more so than actual political.
Yeah. But in a way, if you think about it, most of your horror films do actually deal with heavy subject matter and even political things that were happening at the time, which people don't understand. You think it's just a slasher movie, but a lot of horror movies deal with real issues.
Well, and one thing that I like about this movie that you may miss it because it's kind of a small part, but it kind of deals with the PTSD of, and it dealt with it in the first one, but this one, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode's character, Laurie Strode was dealing with a PTSD, but she was in a I'm going to kill his ass PTSD mode, where this one, you're not only dealing with that, there's other characters dealing with the aftermath of the last movie that we never see in these movies. Like there's a character that's killed in the last movie that's very important to these other characters. Then normally we just move on and you're never like crying about them.
No, it creates another level of PTSD.
Because at that moment you're in your adrenaline, you don't think about that. But there's a scene in here that's a very short scene where they finally realize, oh crap, this person is dead, and there's a breakdown and stuff like that. I thought was very important for their character's evolution.
Yeah, and I think because this one we're dealing with, Laurie's now the grandmother, and she has a daughter, and there's a granddaughter. I feel like we're dealing with generational PTSD, even because throughout Laurie's life, she's been telling the story to the point of where now people probably think she's this kooky old lady, but then her daughter now realizes, like, OMG, my mom wasn't crazy. She's been training me for this. But now they're introducing the granddaughter who knew nothing about really what was going on. And she's like, oh, this is real. This is really real. And so you have that. But it's not just them. Now you have the people of the town who we have some of these kids who are now grown up. Yeah. And some of the older people who are now older. And they're like, yeah, this is a generational town thing.
And one of the things that might piss people off with this entry is Laurie Strode is sidelined the whole movie. She has stuff to do, but she is not in a fight with Michael Myers in this movie.
Correct.
And I know a lot of people were pissed off because that's what they want. But I think the whole play's idea is because, again, did we need a trilogy? Probably not. But that's going to happen in the third movie. It's got to. There's no way they can finish it. Especially with the way they ended this movie, there's even more thing. Now, if they end up going the direction of having the daughter or the granddaughter deal with more of it instead, then it's going to be a failure because there's no way you can end like even if Laurie Strode dies in the next movie, they've done that before, and that's sometimes impactful to end the stories. And I don't know, we don't know what they're going to do with it, but she's got to have a very big impact.
You have to have the showdown.
Yeah, if you don't get the showdown in the last one, and I don't think the people that are making this movie because they're fans of Halloween are going to squander that.
Yeah, but I think though, even though she's in the movie a lot, not doing a lot of the fighting, but I think it was important for us to see all these other people fighting back, and even her family fighting back, the town fighting back, these kids fight, like everyone that he has ever touched are now to the point where like we've had it. We're fighting back. I
did also have an issue with there's this whole baseball bat scenario, which that I thought was stupid. Like the initial setup was fine, but then knowing the history of Jason Michael Myers, that he's been stabbed and shot and set on fire and all this stuff, and still you choose a baseball bat.
You choose old Huckleberry.
Yeah, and it's not a character that doesn't know better. Yeah, it's somebody that's been around since day one, and so it's like that part kind of irritated me.
Yeah, I agree, and
I love the ending to this movie. There's a lot of people I know that are pissed.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't like.
Oh, come on, that's classic. Like classic horror.
Well, they didn't like where they went with the explanation, and they didn't like that final scene. I love both of them.
Oh, I think it was so
the
smart.
Growth of what we're talking about without saying it, and that final sequence sets up that shit's going to go down in the next one. And
I think it was important.
Yeah.
I think it was important because we have to evolve our characters. If they stay the same, then why even make a new movie? Both of them are evolving.
Here's the thing with this movie. If you hate it, it's
That's
okay.
Great.
You have an entire other timeline of Halloween movies. You've got the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. You can just watch the first one, ignore it. You can jump to Season of Witch.
You can just go watch H2O.
Well, you can watch Season of the Witch and pretend Michael Myers never even existed. So it's kind of built a universe that can be for everyone.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be mad about this movie. Just move on from it. Yeah. Go to the other one. And if had the last one not worked, then we would all just kept watching the other ones. I know people that hate the original Halloween 2. And I know people that love it, and one of my friends was like, one of the reasons he didn't like this new movie is because it was essentially Halloween 2 again. And it kind of was, and it kind of wasn't.
But more blood.
Yeah, so...
Now, I am going to do a shout-out to whoever did the effects in this movie.
She will not shut up about this one moment. It's not even a big kill.
No, but there were two that I really liked. And, there's another one that my friend... So, one of our friends does not like blood and guts in movies. But her favorite kill, or her favorite... It wasn't a kill, it was an attack, I guess. The armpit. And I was like, oh, that one got me, because it's like, ooh, that's got to hurt. No, my favorite thing was just the blood gushing.
Yeah, somebody gets shot in the neck and it's like the heart pumping.
A nice kind of pool of blood, and then it goes. I loved it, and I just like the prosthetics, and
so here's what's cool about this movie. It's in theaters now. It went over expectations. It made $50 million or something. I think they expected it to be like 20, 30, or 30, 40, whatever. It made 50. Stop.
Dogs, stop it.
But if you don't for some reason still don't feel ready to go back to theaters, then you can actually hold on. Come here. You can actually watch it on Peacock. Yes, it's another streaming service, but it's like $5. I think there's two tiers: $5 and $10. And if you have that, it's part of it. It's kind of like Disney Plus. It's on. You don't pay extra for it, so you can watch it home. How we know some people that did that. I may buy Peacock just to watch it again.
Yeah,
I loved it. She seemed to love it.
I really enjoyed it.
There were flaws, but there's a flaw in every one of these movies. I could give you flaws in the original movie too if you want to get technical, but the original is still a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned.
There you go.
Anyway, it's in theaters now. Check it out. Don't check it out. I don't care. Like what you like. Be your own person.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on. Now I got to put somebody out.
Okay, please
What'd you do to the camera?
It's what camera?
This thing's messed up again.
I know. I already fixed it. You need to calm the heck down.
You need to calm the heck down. Yeah.
It's going crazy on me.
All right. Sorry.
I don't know why it went crazy. It just
all right. Anyway, so I guess I'll tell you why you're messing up our show.
I know.
Let's talk about what's coming out this week on the Blu-ray and the DVD.
Okay.
Looks like Maniac Cop 2 and 3 are getting a 4K treatment.
I don't even know
for
what
those
that
that like those. Old that we talked about today is coming out on Blu-ray, 4K, all those kind of things. The Protege, which we've also
I
talked about,
really enjoyed.
is coming out on 4K and Blu-ray. Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins is coming out.
I was going to do that for Snake Eyes.
Thank you. The Scream 20th anniversary or whatever it is edition is getting a 4K release. The new DC animated feature Injustice, it's based off the Injustice game and the comic, is coming out. Smallville, the complete series on Blu-ray, it's also celebrating its 20th anniversary. They just did a whole thing on DC Fandom with the cast. Not Allison Mack, just all the other people. Because I don't talk to her anymore.
Isn't she in prison?
I don't know if she's actually in jail right
I
now.
know she had to serve something. I don't know if it was
I
house
found out
arrest.
something new about her.
What?
I did not know she was married to a woman. And that this woman was one of the main characters from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh.
Who has been defending her. Anyway, moving on.
I was going to say, was her woman also involved in this weird sex ring?
She is, in fact, was. Yes.
Oh, snap.
It was Kaylee. It was like the engineer is like the most adorable, beloved character from Battlestar Galactica. I didn't even know this. Anyway, Superman and Lois, the complete first season, is coming to Blu-ray and DVD. Also, No Man of God, which we'll discuss next week, which is Elijah Wood, about the reporter that talks to, I don't remember who it was, Ted Bundy, I think it is?
Yes, Ted Bundy.
So those are the big
that
ones.
Looks good.
A few other random things like Ip Man Collection and Carlito's Way and Silence of the Lamb kind of coming to 4K, but that's the big stuff.
All right. Coming out on video demand, digital, Netflix, on the line, and theater. Let's just cover everything. So the third installment in the After book series, After We Fall, will be coming on video demand and digital. If you're into these romance novels, it's After, then After Something, and now After the Fall. So there you go.
Is there a prequel called Before?
No, it's this little girl. She falls in love with that guy you shouldn't be in love with. Okay, coming out Wednesday on Netflix, a new movie called Night Teeth. Guess what? It's probably about
Vampires.
I've
seen it.
So,
not the movie. But.
So there you go. It's about this guy the chauffeur picks up two mysterious women. And guess what? Probably vampire. Okay, Netflix movie called Stuck Together. This is an interesting take on now the COVID films.
Oh, it's not like Stuck on You where it's about Siamese twins?
No. So this is a group of like 7 families. They're in a little apartment building. And when COVID hit, a lot of people in this building left for the countryside to kind of get away from the city. These people got stuck there during COVID. So they've been there this whole time in lockdown. And it's basically just the intersecting lives of these families in this little apartment building. So could be high drama. It looks interesting. It'll be on Netflix. Also coming to Netflix is this movie called Found. It is the Amanda Lippitt's documentary.
You say Amanda Biscuits?
Yes, 3 adopted daughters discovered that they're actually all related and they're all cousins. So they go on a journey to find out about their life. Thursday on Discovery Plus. This came out in the theater last week, but now it's available on Discovery Plus. Introducing Selma Blair.
Is that a documentary about
It's
her?
a documentary about her and what she's been going through, so that should be really interesting. Coming out Friday, nationwide. Ron's Gone Wrong. It's that little animated film about the little white robot that suddenly is trying to kill everybody with a knife. Okay, well, that's what it's about. Then coming out now, nationwide release, Dune. And then we will be talking
Dune
about
will also be on HBO Max.
And HBO Max. So
we will be talking about that.
Okay.
I've already seen it.
Okay, you've seen it. We're going to watch it again here at the house for me. Getting some mixed feelings about that. Coming out nationwide, The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. So
that's the Benedict Cumberbatch movie.
Yes, so we're going to watch that. This one, nationwide, The French Dispatch. We finally get to talk about this. You've had that little French Dispatch, the newspaper. And it's about a newspaper called The French Dispatch. HBO Max, we talked about Dune.
The Harder They Fall, is that coming out on Netflix this week?
No,
it's getting limited release.
Limited release, so we'll talk about it next
but I haven't
week.
heard anything.
And that's about it for this week. There'll be some more good things.
The Harder They Fall is that Western with Regina King and all the black
Idris Elba, yeah. But it's not
really good.
It's not this week, babe. It's next week. So
I know that.
Down. All right, that is all. Thank you.
All right, so quickly, but these dogs are going crazy again for some weird reason. Quickly on the contest front.
Yes.
We have a lot of the ones that have been up there. They'll be up there. I've got some new stuff fixing to funnel in. If the contest image is still up, the contest is still open.
There you go.
I had some people ask me about that. I was like, hey, this was been up for months and months and months. That means I still have
We have
extras.
a lot of copies.
So, like, sometimes I get people that enter, but they don't give the right information. I do not give out the prize if you don't answer the questions or give me your address. I don't have time to reach out to every single person. So
Correct.
I do drawings for them. Sometimes the studios will send me more later. So then I end up with more of them. So then I just leave it open. It's also got to stay open until after it's physically released. So there's sometimes a movie, I may put a contest up a month and a half before the movie actually comes out. Yeah. So it sits there. But we've got a couple of movies from Wuggo USA with God of War 2 and The Emperor's Sword, giving those away. Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, the 4K of Clockwork Orange, the Space Jam, A New Legacy, Blu-ray, and lastly, a Shawshank Redemption on 4K. Like I said, there are a couple other ones that are fixing to pop up that I will let you know ASAP.
All right, then. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. We went long. We had so much to talk about. We will see you next week.
Make sure to go online and not only be on our show next week, but go to our YouTube channel if you're not already here watching the show and check out some of the trailers that dropped. Also, just look online. DC Fandom yesterday dropped a whole bunch of first looks of the new Aquaman, the new Shazam, the new Batman trailer, Young Justice new season, a whole bunch of new stuff, animated and live action. So go check it out.
All right.
Peace and love.